Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world we're in. We welcome you to another session of Chronicles of Darkness, Vampire the Requiem, Requiem for London. Once again, we shall be finding our kindred in a bar known as the Hammerhead. Marcus is already inside the bar, chatting with some of the local patrons, and for tonight has invited Mr. Goodman to come around because, after all, Marcus promised that he would give him a little bit more information on what it means to be a berserker, and he's making good on his promise. And with that, Mr. Goodman, if you would like to.
You shall. As Mr. Goodman arrives to the Hammerhead, he looks a bit more charged right now. Not anxious, more focused, like he moves with a purpose. As he arrives to Mr. Iron's table.
Ah, Julian, glad you could make it.
And he simply nods, but then kind of looks around the Hammerhead and asks, "Do they have private rooms here?"
Just a moment. I'll ask the innkeeper. And he walks over to a fellow that he addresses as John. They have a bit of a talk. The bartender nods. Mr. Ryan's puts some money on the counter, and he waves to Julian that they can go into the poker room.
And when they go into that particular room, he makes sure that the door is locked, and he'll actually kind of start waving around bits of talcum powder around the corners of the room. And when nothing seems to disrupt the talcum powder, he relaxes a little bit, but then sits at the table.
Ah, I see you're taking some precautions. Always a good idea.
I'll let you speak first, but I came upon possibly grave news.
Oh my. But I guess I should get you in the loop before we talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. And Marcus sits down. He seems to have his blush of life up. And if Mr. Goodman would know better, you could swear you just had a normal human being in front of you. How should I say, the mask seems properly tightened. Anyway, so last time you asked me what I was able to find out, but I just wasn't really in the mood to talk about what we discovered.
I remember that.
Yeah. So, anyway, the good doctor took the liberty of taking some of my vitae and analyzing it. And yes, we have signs of tampering. Or at least of something really strange going on.
In your vitae specifically, or?
Yes. Turns out somebody has tampered with my vitae, and they guess that is almost 10 months back. So that makes sense with at least some of the memories I have from then. But to boil it down, what seems to be the case is that my vitae and correspondingly my beast is maturing at a faster rate than what seems to be standard with, and he makes air quotation signs, normal kindred.
I just assumed you've been taking the time to make yourself more potent. I never assumed that it was something like else, which my next response would be, was this tampering before or after your embrace? And if it was definitely after, that is even odder. We get all types of chemicals and diseases get inside our bloodstream that don't affect us this way.
That is true. Now, whether this happened before, during, or shortly after my embrace, that I don't know. What seems to be the case is that my vitae is thickening at a rate of about 5 times faster than your standard kindred. So the good doctor's guess would be that my vitae probably will be thickened again in the next 10 years. And I guess if our estimation is correct, then after a few decades, I'll probably have some problems getting more orthodox nourishment, if you catch my drift.
Have they checked your heart yet?
My heart seems to be working otherwise quite normally.
No, but have they checked it physically? My mind feels like possibly they could have switched out your heart with something else, not just simply put strange vitae into you.
Not that I'm aware of, but that's something I'll have to look into. And Marcus looks a little worried.
I bring this up because one of the ultimate techniques of mastering the beast is to remove your heart. And when you remove the heart from a kindred's body, it no longer supports further vitae, nor does it produce it. It only keeps what's left inside the body. But when you
Well, last time we checked, there is a undead heart that is still working, and I've got currently my blush of life up, and I can feel it comfortably thumping in my chest.
all right,
Yeah. So my and her hypothesis is that the reason why whatever the hell they did to me to have this weird effect going on. One thing is for sure, she was able to already measure the thickness of my vitae, and she told me that I seem to already have a little bit of that going on. It's apparently thicker than it should be for someone my age. I'm still able to feed off animals, though, if that's a question you had.
the main thing you're going to have to worry about if you're aging this rapidly is there's supposed to be at a certain point you can't just not kill a human to survive. That's when it's really going to be difficult.
Hmm. So I might have to speed up my plans and see if, well, according to her, torpouring should still have the same effects. But if that's the case, I'll at least in the next 10 years, I'll have to get weaving and figure out a way where I can sleep, where I can have my deep, deep sleep for a while and not be bothered. Oh, that's going to be a headache.
I heard there's other techniques that can help with that, but they escape me at the moment.
Well, feel free to SMS me if you remember.
Was there anything else?
Apart from that, I seem to be perfectly fine and doing well for a kindred of my age. Yes.
Oh, at least that's good.
Yeah, so that's that. Hardly have I got comfortable with more or less figuring out what I am and how I want to go about it, and then I turn out, oh, people have been doing unethical experiments, it seems.
Seems like that indeed.
Mm.
Me and Alley Cat hit one of the big trades for the violet drug that's on the street.
Oh, and Marcus's attention picks up. He concentrates a little bit more on you than he did before.
Majority of them were mortals, though there seemed to be three big players. One, I think it was Grick or Greg, don't really know. He seemed to be one that was making the stuff or at least shipping the stuff to people who wanted to buy it. When we got there, we observed them for a moment. I tried to gain some information from a particular individual. It didn't go very well. I ended up tying him up and putting him behind another building, and they took notice of him missing. They found me, and I had to fight them off. Luckily, for the most part, as I said, they were all mortal. This Garrick, that man, was a ghoul. Confirmed that when he took Alley Cat's baseball bat to the head when she was using it as a javelin on her motorcycle. Got right back up. A mortal would have died right there or be in a coma.
Either that, in a coma, or with that kind of head injury, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he'd be uh, having some carrot soup through a straw. Yeah. The fact that he got up sounds as if he has got, yeah, some of that resilience going.
Ghouls are interesting. They can not nearly to our level, but they can survive with the Vitae.
The
Even without
Vitae makes them tougher. I know. My two mates were able to survive a snowstorm that, under normal circumstances, should have frozen them to death.
yeah. And what makes it worse, when I caught him, at least I was in the moment of catching him, he was calling somebody. And Alley Cat, with her information, presumes he might have been calling the prince.
Marcus swallows hard on his Cuba Libre. Ooh, that's a interesting hypothesis. Were there any more reasons for her to assume that? It's a dangerous thought to have.
She seemed very assured when I was going to call the prince myself to take the body, or take this unconscious man. Which also puts into play, as she was giving more information, why he was so much assured that maybe we actually got off lucky, making sure the previous keeper got our little friends.
Hmm. I've been hearing things, rumors. but that's all rumors, and from sources that aren't haven't got the same credence as you or Alley Cat, or heck, even our sweet Archon.
I'm in a similar boat. This is far as I can tell rumors, but her reaction seemed too sincere. But it's true, I can't confirm anything, but
Mm,
I'd say it'd be safe to be cautious around his people from now on.
agreed. Any government that needs to make memories go when they take you in for questioning. I mean, it's obvious that they're hiding something or multiple things. And that's only an educated guess of mine, but if they don't want kindred who've probably done and seen more hardened stuff not to see that, it must be bad. Because if they just wanted to keep some basic things secret, as in they were maybe discussing something, as long as I was in a totally different room or even a few, let's say, levels away from that room, how the hell would I ever be able to find that out?
Indeed. But the Carthians have it, and we have access to this person as well. We're going to be interrogating him, and I also need to speak to Osley, my sire, and a few other order members to make sure we're not directly involved, which may be dangerous. I'm not sure yet.
I see. Hmm. He claimed the first time we met that he knew my sire. Now, whether or not that was a lie, I can't say. I'm not a maquette. I'm not that good at just sucking up information without good old fashioned interrogation. But interesting that a different kindred came up and said, yeah, Sir Alsop, never heard of him. But yeah. So, what are the rumors that you heard about the prince? I'm curious because there might be stuff that overlaps.
Of what I've heard, he may not be liking certain individuals of the court, or more or less trying to keep a power structure in play. I wish I could tell you more, but Alicat was reserved of information.
That's okay. She told me a month back or so that that she thinks there is a war coming and that sides will be chosen. I'm pretty sure she was pretty sincere when she told me that. Didn't even sound like the usual Carthian spiel.
That is going to be a problem.
Mm,
But at this point, what I want to know is why. Carthians are being the Carthians unless they are doing things under the table that I don't know about. That we don't know about, to be specific.
mm,
That is going to be shifting shifting the city that much. I don't get it. Because all I can tell right now is the Invictus seem to want to snuff out the Carthians, which is typical of their nature, but why?
and why so blunt? Why so obvious? I mean, after all, if it was just a question of doing a power play. Why haven't they done that in the last 10, 20, 50 years? From what I've heard, they haven't been particularly weak in the last few decades. So why now be more belligerent and obvious about it?
And I'm curious, possibly, and maybe that's the reason why the previous keeper was so fervent about getting these bodies. She may know about it.
Hmm.
I've been sending messages to the few crew members that I know to try to gather them up and speak to them.
Don't forget, we two, they owe us a favor each. Mind you, if we're able to get a nice friendly chat without having to cash in that chip, I'd be happy, because I'd rather cash it in a little later when things were a little bit more necessary. But just keep it in the back of your mind.
Yeah. If anything, I really wanted to do, if I was going to ask anything from the crone, excuse me, was possibly just get more general resources, information. If anything, I need feeding, or I need more areas to feed from, not magic or anything. I think my sciences are well equipped enough to do what I need to do.
Hmm. Have you already thought of building up a herd?
A little bit. Some employees that I'm relatively close with, typically the managers. Easier
Hmm.
to get away from the rest of the crew to feed from.
I see. Well, I don't have officially any territory of my own, so can't offer. In a pinch, if the situation allows it, I don't mind you sharing a little bit of my herd.
Well,
But you know how it is. They can get very jittery if somebody new shows up, somebody they don't know yet.
hopefully, unlike that one day, that won't happen again.
Yeah, let's hope so. But if we're in a pinch and there is no other way, they're normally eager enough. I mean, most of them are decent enough folk. And if it's offered willingly, all the better. But yes, I'll keep my eyes and ears open if I hear of any vacant feeding grounds. Or if I think of a source of blood that might not be so regularly utilized, I'll let you know.
I appreciate that. And I also want to come with some, maybe some greater news, or at least more positive news. Kevlar vests are highly effective.
They normally are, yes. I can speak here from personal experience. And he cracks a little smile.
I highly recommend having one, despite what we are. I find it foolish, especially after I've used it. We don't try to wear more personal body armor. I was able to take several men trying to stab me to death, and this Greg's character, Specialized Magnum, relatively unscathed. If I hadn't had that vest, I probably would have died that night.
Yeah, I miss my old rig. My old rig and I, yeah, we've become close friends over quite a few tours, but well, that's a story for a different night. But glad to hear it. I'm also happy to say my stream of income has strengthened, and I would have to check what the prices for Kevlar vests are these nights, but
No, I can save you.
if
It's not too hard.
uh, however, if the prices, including inflation, haven't gone up too much, I should be able to invest in one.
And they can fit under your clothes relatively easily. So easier to move on the streets.
That's true. If worst comes to the worst, always go for some looser clothing that you can throw over it.
But whatever is going on, there's no telling what actually is going on. I guess that's the honest answer.
Well, yeah, the plebs, the general populace has to be kept ignorant of the goings on of the government, or whatever factions are vying for hegemony. Because I think if we knew what they were planning, I've got the feeling more kindred would be freaking out, and probably a little bit more openly.
Indeed, I am really hoping they're not involved with the Al issue either. It may not. It may have not been a unlucky accident for you. It might have been planned. But I'm being paranoid at this point. We're really conspiratorial.
Mm. I have to say, a small dose of paranoia seems to be a very wise thing to have these nights.
But I would say the next thing after this point is tell the members of the order that you can trust. Eventually, I'll try to get my hold of Nikolai, see if he knows anything.
Mm. If it turns out I was let loose, for the lack of a better word, on London to cause those problems, let's just put it that way. I don't take well to people messing with my head, or with any other part of my body for that matter. But I have patience. At least that's one thing I probably have in comparison to a lot of other. I can wait. But yeah, we have to be careful and also see that we don't get too inert. If not, we start stagnating and we just might lose the moment where we have to act.
Indeed. With this new Berserker information, have you talked to Jonathan about this?
No, not yet.
If you go look for him, please let me know.
Jonathan. And Marcus starts scratching his beard. Who exactly are you referring to?
He's the gang girl that you seem to have a connection with. He's a relatively powerful kindred that lives on the death side of London.
Um, if I were to do that, I would want at least another kindred watching my back. For a very simple reason. I'd never seen Jonathan before. Apart from that one time, I hadn't seen him before. I have no memories of him. He's a gangrel. I'm a Ventrue. Never did anything to antagonize him, but when he saw me, he looked at me as if he had seen a ghost, and he was very agitated.
And Goodman nods to that. That's why I think we should probably find him, because maybe he's like you, and that might explain why he's so powerful despite how young he is.
And the weirdest thing is, I felt a connection, the sort of connection I normally only feel with Ventrue, who are slightly, how should I say, closely related is the wrong term, but not that distance that I can't feel a certain amount of blood empathy.
Indeed.
However, if he is like me, and his vitae have been tampered with in the same fashion mine has, then that might explain. Yeah, yeah. Now, mind you, this is a theory, but even if that weren't the case, but he recognized what I was, then the question would be, how does he know that? Because knowledge about berserkers, or let's say the finer points of it, is on the whole pretty unknown to your common run kindred. At least that's what I've been told.
Indeed. So either
Hmm.
he is aware of what you are, or he is what you are.
Hmm. I see. I'm not opposed to finding out more, but I don't want to do it on my own.
No, I'll be with you.
Well, then I'll have nothing to fear. But yes. So, you mentioned before that you have someone you would like to interrogate, or have at least started, but you haven't got all the information out that you would like to. Is this correct?
For the most part, the Carthians have this particular ghoul that is connected possibly to the prince, and but we have access to him.
Hmm. 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 Marcus narrows his eyes. Seems thoughtful. Hmm. If I think about it, I'm probably already dragged deep enough into this whole affair that one way or the other, they could probably easily come up with some excuse to get rid of me if they wanted to. So, do nothing and not have the full information, but being able to feign ignorance, or offer you my help in making him speak truthfully, and them still having the excuse, but us probably knowing a little bit more about their machinations. Hmm. Fuck it. If I wanted a quiet and safe life, I wouldn't have chosen the path that I did. I'll offer you my help in making him speak the truth, if you want it.
I say at this moment that we pretty much need it. Though, sound like the Carthians probably don't have a Ventrue too, but I would like you to be there to be a witness.
Yes, and the more no, the easier it is that the information can't get swept under the rug as easily. The more no, the harder it is for them to go all Gestapo on our asses. I mean, they could still try, but then the information is spread out. And if there's one thing that is bulletproof, it's ideas.
Indeed.
Fine, I'll help you. I'll bear witness. And I'm curious. I'm really curious what probably pretty fucked up scheme they're trying to pull off. I mean, I expect my politicians to lie to me. That's nothing new, but there is lying, and then there is some seriously heinous stuff. And I don't want to be accused to have been someone who let evil happen just because I did nothing. He takes another sip.
All right. I'll make sure to send you a message, and I'll make a meeting point for us to arrive to together, then deal with this particular man.
I'll command him to be truthful. Unless his will is something that I've never come across before, I should be able to help.
He nods. I don't know if he has enough vitae in his system to resist you, or he might be getting hungry. It's been a day or two.
Hmm.
But we'll find out when it happens.
We will. We will. I, for my part, have got no further news I could really share with you.
So, not a problem.
Hmm. So, to a different subject. How are you holding up, mate? How are you doing?
Doing alright, to be honest. Uh, those gangers were, well, they were just that. They were gangers. They were relatively unsavory people, not just in a general sense, but in the community, in a personal sense. So I had the opportunity to sate myself that night.
Fair enough. There are some people around who are just nasty to their own kind, so guess you did some more decent folks a favor.
Possibly, but as far as the news is concerned, it's just another murder. So I might have caused a little bit more unnecessary police traffic, which I'm sorry about that.
Well, luckily that police traffic is nowhere near where I feed, so you don't have to excuse yourself to me.
Hmm. That particular night somewhat bugs me in the sense that it took me a long time to gain control of my beast, unusually long time. Never had that trouble before.
Okay. Were you particularly hungry or had some other kindred particularly aggravated you in some way? Um,
And he shakes his head. No, I was trying to ride the wave. Took me almost 5 minutes.
Whoa. For somebody of the mystery of the worm with your title, I mean, I'm no expert, but I take it that is way longer than you normally can.
It should be at best that long, a minute. Typically, it only costs a few seconds. If I wasn't at the master that I'm at, I wouldn't be able to do it. I would have lost control.
Hmm.
And especially being attacked by nearly 10 people at once. I would think the beast would have been more inclined to listen to me.
One would think so. Although the weirdest thing is, I've had the beast listen to me in moments where I didn't really expect it to, but also the other way round. Sometimes you would think it'd be cooperating, but no. Fucking dumb animal has is easily distracted. Let's put it that way.
I unfortunately have to agree.
Hmm. May I ask you something a little personal?
Like what?
I mean, I've heard rumors, but I don't know how accurate they are, so sorry if I'm asking like a dumb non-gangrel question. But does your beast speak to you? As in, have you got the feeling that it is conversing with you with speech?
Occasionally. Being on the road to the worm, it makes it easier to actually understand what it's saying.
Okay, good, good. In my case, it tends to be more impressions, general moods.
I've I would say in most cases I would agree, but there have been times where I could hear it say small statements. With those particular gangers, it confided in my mindset at the time that we could take them, and it came out more words, not just a feeling.
Mm, well, okay. There, there was this one time where I could swear that the beast was cursing at me in a pretty bad in no, not a bad, actually a pretty convincing Cockney accent. It had to do with the way a kindred that the beast deemed beneath me was talking to me,
Hmm.
and the funniest thing was it was having a hard time making up its mind whether it was angry at me for allowing the insult or angry at the kindred who had offered the insult.
It may be different for a venture. I've never heard of them. I have never personally heard of them having a sense of personality. They have an accent specifically. I see. That is very odd to me, at least.
Who knows? Maybe it was also only the stress and I was imagining it.
Mm. The understanding of the beast is not a perfect science.
Hmm. May I ask what rank in your mystery you are at?
Intermediate. There's only a few more steps to go. Then I'll have a coil mastered.
Very good. Very good. If 5 fingers represent full mastery of the coil of the mystery and the coil I'm on, Marcus starts lifting his pinky, his fourth, his ring finger, his middle finger, and his index. Then this is where I'm at. Fire not only doesn't spook me anymore, it doesn't harm me the way it used to.
You're taking the time to master that, eh? So you're getting up there as much as I am.
Yes, I know I need to have some sort of advantage, especially if I have the displeasure of meeting and he lifts his two fingers again to make the air quotation marks, my maker, and then he mock spits into the corner.
I would say at this moment in time, there's no such thing as being overprepared.
Agreed. And if nothing else, it's good to have a backup. Just for the unlikely case that the blade I wield might be destroyed, taken away, sequestered away, put in some fucking magic circle, or what the hell do I know? The magics I've seen, I used to only believe would exist in fantasy novels and storybooks. Boy, was I wrong.
This world is a crazy, crazy place.
The more I think about it, the more I have to remember the words of my deceased friend Harry. He always liked to describe the world we find ourselves in as the fallen world. Whatever the hell he meant with it. At least it sounds about right.
Why particularly that turn of phrase?
He used to go on about Marcus is debating whether or not he should say what. Let's just say the word Atlantis fell a few times in conversations I had with him, mostly when we were high off our asses, but he would sometimes come up with this weird stories or mythologies. He was convinced that it was the truth, that the truth had been given to him from on high. I would just, nod and play along a bit because I had my problems. He helped me. Who was I to judge? He didn't hurt anyone, but yeah. Now I sort of wished I would have listened a little more intently to him, but yeah. There was talk about a reality that got split. That there is apparently like some great chasm between the higher realms and the fallen world. And supposedly, even either other realms or dimensions or worlds, what did he say? Intersect to a certain degree. I mean, forgive me, dude. I tended to be not the most attentive when he was saying that. But it was fascinating watching him. He was so convinced of it. Well, I'll never get a chance to ask him what he meant with that stuff. I mean, unless I'm able to find a medium, and even then, I don't really know if that would be a smart idea. I normally try to let the dead be dead and let them have their peace.
You don't answer that.
Make of it what you want to. If you want to think that I'm a little crazy for even bringing that up, I can't blame you. I mean, sounds like proper tinfoil stuff, but... And he just shrugs his shoulders and finishes off his Cuba Libre.
I don't know. I know that I know that I don't know, and I try to keep it that way. If there's such a thing, then maybe it's real. I just haven't seen it yet.
And even if, for the sake of argument, let's say that everything he told me was true and I would even be able to remember some of that stuff, I dare say that we first have to sweep in front of our own houses and our own doorsteps before we should start casting our eyes that much further across the street. That's why I'm also so willing to help. It seems as if London is a house in disorder, and it needs more stability, not more instability.
Indeed. But
We've got external enemies, and ooh, well, we'll find out how it looks internally. But a house divided can't stand. At least a reasonably smart fellow in history once said that.
Goodman will stand up and will say, "Well, I wish you the best of luck on these nights, and if you find Nikolai before I do, if you feel comfortable at least, make sure to tell him what I told you."
Gotcha, mate. And Marcus looks something. And yeah, our time was going to run out in 5 minutes anyway. So, please, at least let me see you off. And he stands up, opens the door.
And as he opens the door, there is a little motion with his hands as he's kind of doing the talcum powder near the parts of the door, probably giving people looking at him with weird looks as nothing seems to happen. When he does that, he kind of wipes it off with his feet to not look like such a mess. Hopefully, I'll see you another night.
You know me. It takes more to get good old Captain Irons under. I'll be okay. And he gives you he sort of slightly scuttles over to Goodman and gives him those one-armed hugs, sort of parallel hugs, from doing, just goes like, taps him on the shoulder. You stay safe, keep me up to date, and I'll see that Nikolai's up to date as well. Oh, and Give your sister my regards.
Oh well. And he will begin leaving the Hammerhead.
Yep. I dare say this is a good place to wrap up things, unless there's anything else you want to say.
Nope.
Good. And with that, as Mr. Goodman is walking into the night, occasionally his figure being lit up by a street lamp, after not too long he disappears into the dark of the night. Marcus looking after the fellow, finishing a cigarette, has a thoughtful expression on his face as he turns around and re-enters the Hammerhead. The camera moves away and it fades to black. And with that, thank you players for playing, thank you watchers for watching. See you next time.